Hey there, it's Dr. Julie Allig back again on Friday for one of my live streams where I talk all about data and all about how businesses can be using data to improve their profit, improve their bottom line, and improve efficiency. So good to see you all again. If you're joining me for the first time, welcome. Um, Nice to have you here. If you're joining me again for the umpteenth time, welcome back. It's good to see you. And if you're catching this on replay, hello, good to see you also. It's a Friday afternoon, 3 p.m. in the United States, here in lovely New England. It's sunny outside, but that means the leaf blowers are going crazy. So there is practically a symphony of leaf blowers going on in my neighborhood right now. So I'm going to cross my fingers that no one in my immediate proximity fires up the leaf blower um, and gets in the way of the audio for this. So just a reminder, I am here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, except between now and the end of 2023, I'm only going to be every other Friday because let's face it, this is the time of year when everyone's calendar goes just crazy. So every other Friday, which means I'm here this week. I won't be here next week, but I'll be here again in 2 weeks talking more. And keep your eyes peeled. I very well might have a very special guest joining me again. I had some good feedback from when I had Jen O'Brien on about a month ago, talking about how she uses numbers and analytics in her medical aesthetics business. And a quick reminder, even if you're not catching this live, you can catch the replay here on LinkedIn or over on my YouTube channel, where you'll also find a couple other videos that I've put up with some answers to some helpful questions that I've gotten through the months. All right, so today I wanted to talk about ways of using generative AI to speed up the kind of analytics work that, sure, I do, but especially a lot of other people do. Maybe a lot of people who aren't quite as specialized as I am in the kind of analytics and data science that I do. I want to show this as a way of illustrating that you don't need to be in a very specialized technical kind of position to be able to benefit from using generative AI. And today I'm going to be using ChatGPT 4, but this goes for all of the other generative AI models out there. I want to show a couple of ways that it can help pretty much anyone who needs to be using some common pieces of software to be able to do some analysis on their business numbers. So I also want to say at the outset, I do not want to leave anyone with the impression that what I'm trying to do here is advocate using generative AI to do an analysis when you, the person actually using it, doesn't have any background of the techniques. You don't have any experience with the subject matter or anything. You'll see, I have two examples today, one using Microsoft Excel and one using R, which is a statistical package. And in the Excel example, I'm going to show you, I've got a lot of experience already handling data sets this way. And the example is from a higher ed institution, a hypothetical one that I stitched together some data from. And I've got a lot of background. I was in higher ed administration doing a lot of analysis for 20 years. So it's not the case that I'm a complete newbie, just opening up a discussion with a generative AI and prompting away and expecting to get good, solid analyses out of that. Similarly with R, which is a statistical program, the example I'm going to show is from social network analysis, and I'm going to be creating a network diagram of a imaginary professional networking group and looking at the different directionalities of passing of referrals back and forth. And so what I'm using in R is a package I've never used before, or I've used a little bit before, iGraph. I use some other ones in R to do this. But again, it's not as if I don't know anything about social network analysis and doing different types of analyses. I do. I was trained. This is one of the ways that I was trained when I was getting my doctorate. I understand the theory behind it. I understand the challenges. I understand the drawbacks. So again, I'm not trying to do a demonstration of generative AI here where I'm performing the equivalent of open heart surgery, where I am anything but a licensed medical professional. This is building, the examples that I'm showing today is building on some of the really intriguing research that is coming out. Especially there's a group of researchers affiliated with the Wharton School and with MIT that are finding a lot of really interesting results with just how much humans using AI outperform humans not using AI. And within those humans using AI, people who are novices or somewhat novices experience really, really marked gains in what they're able to do compared to the people who are more the specialist, right? So that's what I'm building this on. So with that caveat out of the way, I wanted to share with you the first example that I had that I pulled together about using AI and generative AI here when I'm working with big data sets in Excel. And so what I've got here for you that I can share my screen. What I've got first, I wanted to kind of give you a sense of what I mean by the kind of data I have and just why it might be difficult to work with. So what I've got here is just a demo, okay? Imagine that this is 400,000 rows, for example. And here what we've got is we've got a spreadsheet of various students. And here I've got them listed as case IDs. So I've got unique IDs for each one. And then for each student, for each term or semester, what I've got is the course they took. And then I've got information about what at the end of that term their professional GPA was, their cumulative GPA was, and whether or not they had to repeat that course, and then how many quality points they got. So basically, what was their grade? Because what I want to be able to do is a couple of different kinds of analyses here, but one of them is for everyone who took, let's say, this freshman English class, Introduction to Logic, how many of them had to repeat it? What was their grade the first time? What was their grade the second time? That sort of thing. And so you can see here what I did is I've got one student here, and then I've got this student's which term they took the class. And then I've created a variable here called hierarchy. So basically what I'm doing is saying which term was their absolute first term, which was their second term, et cetera, et cetera. And then for that term at the end of their term, what was their GPA, intro to logic, repeat flag, and quality points. Okay. I've got a second one here, you can see, and then again, imagine that this went on not for 17 rows, imagine this went on for another 390,000 rows. So you've got a big university, you've got a lot of students over 10 years, and you've got every single course they took. Okay. That's kind of big. That can be kind of confusing, right? So what I wanted to do was show you, so there you have kind of a sense of exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the kind of data set that you're working with. Now imagine for this project that I've got another data set. And what I'm doing, actually for this project, I have multiple data sets. And they all are looking at students, they're looking at this, they're looking at that, they're looking at all these different kind of areas that I can use to do some analysis. The first one I wanted to figure out is what I've got is, and you can see the prompt here, I'm sharing my screen. This is my prompt in GPT-4. I'm working with a data set. Here, I just wanted to recode in Excel. The thing is that what I wanted to I mean, it's easy enough to recode a column, right, in Excel. What I wanted to do, I needed to recode the column into a new variable. However, if it depended on what I wanted to bring over was the student's grade in the class, but only if they repeated. I only wanted to bring in the one where it actually counted towards their GPA, right? So basically the second or maybe the third time that the student took the class, I wanted that to be brought over, not the first one, not any other one, just that one, right? So that's a little complicated because we're talking about VLOOKUPs, we're talking about if statements, and actually we're talking about nested if statements and everything. So I asked ChatGPT-4, how do I do this? So I said that if the value in the third column, the repeat flag is 0, then the value from quality points should be copied directly into, right? So if it's 0, if they didn't repeat it, go ahead and pull that right in on my second spreadsheet. However, if the flag is 1, which means they did repeat it, right? Then look in another column, short title, section short title, to find the name of the repeated course, and then to the hierarchy column to find the larger number, right? So basically what I was saying is if they repeated it, then what I want you to do is look and see what the name of the course is that got that flag. And then I want you to look at the hierarchy number and pull the row that has the highest number. Whichever row has the larger hierarchy number, use the value for quality points to populate and fill the rest with 99. That's pretty complicated, right? And, that's the sort of thing that, sure, you can figure it out, but I would have figured it out if I had banged my head for an hour or 2 or 3 or something, right? If I had gone on to YouTube and spent time trying to figure out what to do. My guess is this is the kind of example that not a lot of people are going to have uploaded YouTube videos about. So this was taking me some time trying to get the code really write in Excel. And so what I did is I said, okay, ChatGPT, how would you do this? Gave me the formula right there. And then you can see applying that. There's that, modify that, review and clean up. Then I had a question. What does A through E mean? Great. Bob's your uncle. Literally 3 minutes. I was able to get this to work. And if I had to, a data set of 17 rows, I can do it by hand. When I've got a data set of 400, 500, 600,000 rows, I can't do it. So I thought through the logic myself, and then I gave that logic to generative AI, and I said, basically, translate this into something that Excel would understand. So another example, still working with this same data set, right? I was calculating some GPAs, and I wanted to make sure that the GPA, the code, was calculating them correctly, because there's a lot that goes into pulling the right things, right? So I was doing this actually over in R. So I said, explain to me what this snippet of R code is doing. And it came right back, and it reinforced for me that, yep, it's doing what I thought it was doing. So again, that's another example of a human starting, right? Writing some code, maybe having generative AI assist with it, and then feeding it back in just to kind of do some QA on it, double check. Now, again, this is only double checking. This isn't, we all know generative AI models can hallucinate. Sometimes they're wrong. With ChatGPT in particular, it only goes up to 2021. Other ones come forward in time much closer to today, like Claude. But there's another example. I also wanted it to calculate something for me. And this is over in R again. I was doing this and I said, okay, I want to do this, generate the code for me. This is nice. I wanted to include this kind of as an example of, it gives me code here. I copy it, I paste it into R, I run it, and I double checked it. And this code, I found it wasn't doing the job correctly. So I told it, fix it. And it fixed it. There you go. One to many. This is that spreadsheet, again, going back with the students and their grades and doing analysis on that. I had multiple spreadsheets, but I had two in particular. I wanted to pull in data just from one in particular, from the original spreadsheet that had multiple rows for each student. And then what I wanted it to do was bring it over into kind of that summary spreadsheet to just have, that just has one summary row per student. And this was helpful because it also gave me a way of doing this in Excel using XLOOKUP, which is the same thing as VLOOKUP, only it's looking at rows, not necessarily columns. But then it also gave me VLOOKUP with if, with a nice if statement there. And it also gave me an index and match kind of way to do it. So here, again, I've got 3 ways to do it. I don't know about you, and I don't know about if you manage a team and they always do their analysis in one tool. A lot of times I tend to default right back to the way I did it the last time. And that time I did it the way I did it the time before. It gets very easy to kind of get into that rut of, okay, I know how to do it. The easiest way to do it is to do it the same as the last time I did it and it turned out well. this is helpful because what this is doing is reminding me here that there's more than one way to carry this out. And so I really wanted to bring this forward and show you all this because it's a good reminder that these software and programming in general, I know this is not going to be, alert the press or anything, but there's more than one way to do things. And sometimes the way that we've always done it, yeah, it gets it done, but it might not be the most efficient. And plus, it's always neat to just kind of to try to do something a slightly different way and learn something. So I also wanted to share this with you because I went and I did each of these three. And then I said, okay, I'm trying method 3 and it's not working. So again, this kind of back and forth with the generative AI to arrive at a solution for what I want. And so what it did is it gave me a 4th way of doing it, which is awesome. It gave me another method, adding in a helper column. So added in a helper column, blah, 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 all good. This is the last one that I wanted to show from Excel, and then I'm going to, show in, actually this one's over in R. I pulled this into R, but I include this because the generative AI just came up with this analogy of baking cookies, which I have no idea where it came from, but it worked. So what I said is, I told it, I'm working on a data set in R and I'm getting an error. Tell me in simple, non-technical terms, what's wrong with the code I've written that's throwing this error? And then I just cut and pasted it in. And it interpreted me saying simple, non-technical terms. Your code has a slight mistake, but I'll explain it in simple terms. Imagine you are trying to bake cookies using a recipe, and then it goes through and it talks about your ingredients and mixing the dough and this and that. And I thought, you know what? Yeah, this makes sense. So I thought that was kind of cute. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then I'm like, okay, thanks. But actually, now I'm getting another error. What the heck is going on? And it gives me another. Imagine you're at a fruit market and you're weighing up apples. So the third one that it gave me is a box of chocolates. So just very interesting. And I include this example because it shows that even though I am able to get code that runs out of this generative AI algorithm, sometimes it doesn't work. And even when it doesn't work and you go back, it still might not work. So there's definitely that give and take. Trust but verify is what keeps coming to mind with me. Anyway, there we go. All right. The second example that I wanted to share with you all was an example for doing social network analysis. And now for this is a social scientific methodology for kind of doing exactly what it says, analyzing social networks. So I'm here streaming live on LinkedIn. What is LinkedIn or Facebook or any of these other than big social networks? And so being able to analyze the direction of relationships from one person to another, to assign different kinds of weights to those directionality, the directionality of the relationships, being able to find different clusters, call it maybe neighborhoods or something within your larger, your larger network. These are all things that we can do using different software packages. And for this one, I'm using R. I use R for a lot of things. I don't do a whole lot of social network analysis, and so in R. And so I thought, okay, this would be a good test case to see what's going on, see how long it really takes me to get something I can use using generative AI. So again, I know how to use R, and I know how to, I know the theory, the subject matter of social network analysis, all of that stuff. So I'm not going in blind. What I am going in blind with is I'm not really good at the R package that you need to use in order to do social network analysis. And in particular, this one, that the package you need to use is iGraph. I can do some stuff in iGraph, but I can't do a whole lot. To wit, what I've got here is, this is as far as I got. So I've got, so what the heck is this, Jules? Okay, so this is a, what I've done is I've taken a fictitious networking group. Think BNI, something like that, okay? And what I've done is I have tallied up all of the referrals that happened for a month or two in this one group. And so I've got this table in Excel that I created over here in R as a vector. And what this means is, you know, person 1 gave a referral to person 2. Person 3 gave a referral to person 4. Person 3 also gave a referral to person 5, and so on and so forth. So I had 23 people in total, and I've got all the different little referral passes here. And so what I told, using iGraph, right, what I told R was, okay, plot this out. Show me what this looks like. And that's what we've got over here. Let me blow this up a little bit for you. So here's a network analysis. So there you go. This is each person, right? These are all, this is all fictitious, right? Could totally do this on anything live, but this is all fictitious. Let me give you, I think I'm not sharing. Always forget, there we go. When I do anything like this, I have to do a new share. There we go. So you can see this network analysis here, okay? And that's good. I mean, this is really interesting. Already we can see some neat things going on. Look out here, we've got 14 and 15. The only times they interact is between the two of themselves, and it's 14 passing something to 15, right? We've got whoever this is over here, number 3, seems to be kind of central, has a lot going to them and doing a bit also. Over here, number 2 seems kind of central, right? So this is pretty good, okay? This isn't all that bad. So what did I do? So this is as good as I can do, let's just say. I set my timer yesterday for an hour. And I said, okay, let's see how good, how much I can improve this, right? And so I started using ChatGPT, and I started asking it questions like, I am using the iGraph package in, here, let me share that screen for you. Where do we go? There we go. There we go. Okay, so I said I'm using R to perform a network analysis. Using iGraph, I want to assign a color to a group of nodes. What's the code to do this, right? So because what I want to be able to do is each of those people has a certain industry that they are a member of. We've got banking, we've got accountants, we've got real estate, we've got hospitality. You get the picture, right? We've got insurance, we've got IT. I want to show what color each person, I want to show what profession they're in, what industry they're in by showing their color. How in the heck do you do that? Okay, well, it tells me basically here's the code to do it. I can do it with a grouping attribute. I had to ask it twice to do it. And then what I was able to come up with is something like this. This is where I started. This is the next. So what I was able to do was assign a hot pink, a yellow, an orange, green, assign all these colors to different professions or industries. So all of a sudden, it's one thing to see this network. It's another thing to start looking at it, and it's slightly different. But what it's doing is it's the exact same thing. It's rotating it a little bit, and it's telling you what industries play nicely together. What industries pass referrals back and forth to each other? What industries never pass any referrals back and forth to each other? And so this itself is really interesting. Now I was thinking, okay, one, I really don't like these these arrows. They were really bugging me. So I figured out how to make them smaller and just be like that. And then I realized I had taken off the arrowheads. So I was going to have to fix that in the next iteration. But this iteration, what it does is it fixes the arrows, but it also assigns a weight to each person depending on how many referrals they passed. And so now, what do you see here? Look at 2. 2 is definitely in the center. 2 is a part of this light blue industry. And 2, compared to everyone else, is passing boatloads of referrals. Second, over here, 5 and 17. So these 3 people, look at how much they're passing. And then look at these out here. They're all by themselves. They're only linked to the rest of the network by 17. We've still got 14 and 15 out here, all by themselves. So I wonder what's going on with that. Is it because of their industry? Probably not, because this blue here is also here. So it's not the case that this industry isn't finding other people to pass referrals to in this group. So what's going on with that? It might be that they're a new member. It might be that maybe blue, I honestly don't remember. Maybe blue is real estate and this is residential and this person is commercial real estate. I don't know. It could be something like that. So that, again, I don't use iGraph. I know what it means to assign the weights. I know what I mean. I knew that was the next thing I needed to be doing. The other thing I needed to do was add back in those arrows because it's one thing to see that there's some sort of passage between, for example, 5 and 3, but which way is it going, right? So here, 5 and 3, oh, it's bidirectional. So, and so what I've done here, as you can see, again, I'm trying to get these arrowheads right because they were bugging the heck out of me. And all of this. So think back, I started with this and just those 2 lines of code in iGraph. And this, like I started with saying, this is already really instructive. You can start looking at who's passing to whom. You can look and see where where the gaps are and who's not passing much at all. What can we do about that? Maybe they're new, maybe they've been sick or something, so they just haven't attended many meetings in the past couple of months. So it's just a question of a deficit of data. But then we're able to look at the industries. We're able to look at the actual weight. So how much of the total referrals each person is responsible for, right? So who are the heavy hitters? If you are looking to build your business and you're part of this group, who do you make sure you network with? You network with the people who are in adjacent industries, certainly, but you also look at who's passing the most, who's basically a referral machine, right? And then here we've got it looking a little better. And then my timer went off. So where I go next is, the first thing is, I'm kind of confused because I'm like, okay, which industry is light blue and which industry is dark blue? And also the next thing is throw in a legend, which very simple to do. And then it's actually doing the analysis. So figuring out the assessing centrality, assessing that sort of thing, looking at the directionality, assigning weights to those lines. I can imagine making them heavier or thinner depending on the number of referrals back and forth, this and that. There are all those sorts of nuances when you start looking at a network that are really important. But that was 60 minutes. That was it, my friends. And so with the example from Excel before, I mean, that took me, granted, I was going back and forth between R and Excel, but I was really working a lot in Excel. And there's a lot that you didn't see that I was doing that I didn't bother showing you. But I mean, that was maybe 6 hours. Some of those calculations were pretty convoluted. Those take a while to do. iGraph, I did not have to go read all the documentation on CRAN about the iGraph package. I did not have to go read this blog post and that website. I was able to get that far. Now, the next thing I would do, obviously, is QA it and all. But that was an hour. And in an hour, I can already start making some general statements. And so when I talk about going from weeks to hours, I'm really serious. It is something that can really speed things up. Always have to take it with a grain of salt, of course. Trust but verify. And you saw, I gave you an example or two with just some, pretty basic R code that it gave me incorrectly. And I had to tell it, go back and fix this. Why isn't this running? What does this error message mean? Right? But yeah, this is really speeding things up. And from my perspective, the importance for speeding things up is that I'm not spending all my time and my cognitive capacity banging my head against the computer, which is the way that my shorthand for saying, trying something, it doesn't work. Trying something, it doesn't work. Trying something, go to YouTube, go somewhere else, read the documentation again, try something, ask someone. I don't have to go through all that. I'm able to really streamline this. So now, after spending, especially on this network analysis, right? After spending an hour yesterday, if I spent another 15 minutes today, if this were real data, I would be able to go back to that group and say, this is what I'm seeing. These are some of the assessment metrics that I've calculated. And that's what this means for this group. Done. And then I can spend more time actually analyzing the data and reflecting on what that network diagram is showing me and what the implications are. I see we've got someone in the chat, Paul from New Zealand. Hi, Paul. Oh, it's so nice to see you. Paul says, this is brilliantly ironic, Julie. I've been building a dashboard of, all the data, including referrals, for the BNI group I'm in here in New Zealand over the last week or so. Oh, that is ironic. Oh my gosh, Paul, we should chat offline. This sort of analysis is totally doable for a BNI chapter or something. I didn't realize you were in BNI. I was part of the Manchester Powerhouse BNI chapter a couple of years ago, and great group of people. I'm still friends with a good number of them. So that's a great group. And yes, this is something that is extremely applicable to that kind of networking group. Yeah, so let's connect offline and we can talk some more. All right, that's what I have for you this week. I want to thank you for joining me. If you're catching this on replay, thank you so much for spending your time and watching. What do you think of this? Have I convinced you at all that this is worthwhile to think of, to be doing some of your own or your team's own analytics? Does it take a little bit of the fear factor out of analyzing your business data? Do you think this is all hogwash? I'd love to know. I really would. Send me a DM or add your feedback to the comments below. I always check. Like to hear what you all have to say and whether this is making sense. Hopefully this is valuable. Hopefully this will be able to save you and your teams some time and get you to that actually analyzing part of doing the data analysis, the data science more quickly. What else? I think that's it. And I will be back in 2 weeks, again on Friday at 3 p.m. And cross your fingers. I'm still waiting for confirmation. I might have a awesome guest joining me. But in the meantime, if you have any suggestions about what you'd like to see me talk about, if you're someone who would like to come on and chat data with me one Friday, drop me a DM. I'd love to have you as a guest. If you have any other questions, you can find me. Most of the time I'm over on LinkedIn. You can also drop me an email at Julie_Allig, that's ALIG, at JLAanalytics.com. Let me put that up. You can find me over on LinkedIn. And until next time, go forth and analyze.